Soldier, at ease. Just because I have a few gray hairs on my head and an extra ribbon on my chest doesn't mean you have to panic when you see me. Here in this trench, you and I are on the same level, covered in sludge formed from the mud, blood, and gore of our fellows. Hard to be proud of your rank when you're covered in the remains of your friends. Wait, are you new here? Amazing. I did not think our battle line would be getting reinforced anytime soon. I'm happy to get a few more bodies here, although I'm sad for you. Another fresh faithful looking to serve their kingdom in a world that's dying around them. You look shocked I would say such words. You wouldn't be if you knew what I knew. You see, I suffer from a disease most are smart enough not to catch. An interest in history. Because of it, I know more about how far humanity has fallen than most. Sadly for you, soldier, I'm bored. And when I'm bored, I like to talk, which means I'm going to give you a history lesson. Now take a seat. That's an order. Soldier, the first thing you should know is that we broke the world. And by we, I mean humanity. Our greed and ignorance turning what was once a whole world into a broken mess. You see, about 300 years ago, this world wasn't covered in heavy dark clouds that permanently stained the sky, and the large pieces of lands we call plains weren't hanging on the branches and roots of the world tree. No, long ago what you see around you looked very different. Although there were clouds on occasion, there were also times when the sky was a beautiful blue, with a hanging shining orb known as the sun, that gave bright light instead of the eternal gloom that we live in now. And the plains were once combined into places called continents, large stretches of land surrounded by huge bodies of water called oceans. This world we once lived in, depending on what version of the legends you believed, was birthed or protected or imagined by the World Tree, an ancient being whose exact origins were long lost to myth. I don't know much about what life was like for the various countries that lived on these continents. I'm sure they had their own issues, because I'm not naive enough to think they didn't war with each other, or suffer from the sins that we all continue to suffer from today. But at least they lived in a world that was whole, that wasn't dying. The first steps towards that death were made by the Arcanist Guilds. Arcanists were practical magicians who, over the decades, grew in political power as they brought about innovations that became central to modern life, reaching a point where every place humans lived, from the largest cities to the smallest of villages, had at least one Arcanist making life easier for noble and common folk alike. They also brought considerable contributions to warfare, equipping the soldiers of power-hungry or paranoid rulers with enchanted armor that can deflect musket fire, or weapons that can carve through steel with ease. And over time, as the Arcanist's power grew, so did their ambitions. They no longer wished to craft simple trinkets, but true wonders. And in order to do this, they had to do the unthinkable. They had to harvest the roots of the World Tree. The World Tree was a font of magical power. Not only did it hold the world together, many cultures had learned to siphon small amounts of its energies, to heal wounds, and perform other minor acts of magic when necessary. But it was long forbidden by ancient texts to harvest from the tree, to cut what was considered holy. The chaplains of the Church of the Godheads vehemently warned against such an action. Sadly for the chaplains, not many listened. Although the chaplains of the time could perform minor miracles, it was nothing compared to the power of the Arcanist Guild, and the easing of daily life due to this power made the people more likely to ignore the warnings of their spiritual leaders. It also didn't help that the heads of the church, in a bid to maintain power in this new age, actually chose to join with the Arcanist Guilds, giving spiritual legitimacy to the organization. And I will admit, as they carved the sacred heartwood from the World Tree and experimented with it, they did create wonders. The flying ships you occasionally see, those few left around anyway, are an example of one of the wonders they had crafted, each one powered by a piece of the world tree carved out centuries ago. As the Arcanist continued to carve from the tree, the world began to darken, and massive earth-shattering storms racked the land. Now most would take all that as a sign that perhaps mining the tree that was the foundation of the world was a poor idea. But the greedy rulers and merchant lords, who were funding the Arcanists, only saw the potential for more wealth and power, and spurred the Arcanists on, until finally, the world quite literally broke apart. Billions were lost as the dirt underneath their feet was swept into the void. Vast mountain ranges became strings of glittering snow-capped stars strewn across the sky. Verdant lowlands became the chains of land we now know as plains. Plains now hanging on, and separated by, the tangled branches, roots, and canopies of a vast and now decaying tree. Despite this breaking of the world, we humans are stubborn, and we of course found ways to survive. Between the plains lie massive branchways, both natural and man-made, that we use to travel between them, not to mention secret passages along the route paths, held by rugged frontiersmen and battle-hardened tribes, who will guide you through for a price. Through these, the wealthier nations, those that had survived, and those that had formed after the cataclysm, quickly claimed as many plains as possible to extend their territory, trying to hold on to as much of the old world as they could. And if the breaking of the world was the worst we had to deal with, I think humanity might have had a chance. But it is sadly so much worse, because the World Tree didn't just bind the world together, it bound reality itself. And now reality is crumbling, and dark realms beyond our own are beginning to intrude upon ours. Dark realms containing creatures that don't belong in our world. The fungus is an example of one of these extraplanar intruders. These fungal growths were never seen before the breaking of the world, but now, an infestation can pop up anywhere. Wherever they are found, they must be burned out quickly, before they spread deadly spores that form clouds of poison that scour and distort the plane. And in recent decades, there have been rumors of dark creatures and strange men appearing on the branches between planes. More detailed information is lacking for now, but I have a feeling that will change soon. As disturbing as the idea of strange dimensions corrupting our own may be, some see in them opportunity. There are people who willingly treaded into those forbidden realms, and somehow came back alive. When they do return, they return changed. Their trials allowing them access to strange magical disciplines not known on our world. Disciplines far more focused on killing than the magic of the Arcanist Guilds. These sorcerers, as they have come to be called, are effectively living artillery and are pretty useful on the battlefield. But most who see them can't help but feel there is something unnerving about them, something unnatural. Despite the world breaking apart, and new horrors emerging from places beyond comprehension, nothing is gonna stop humanity from doing what it does best, killing each other. Because even with the world decaying around us, armies still march to war. Minor kingdoms and rival warlords fighting for territory that will inevitably crumble underneath their feet, settling ancient grudges that should have ended when the world died, and fighting over the last bits of magic left in the World Tree. Magic that is corrupted, as the life energies bestowed by the tree is tainted with its decay. The planes they choose to fight on are thus changed. Places we should be using for food and shelter turn into complex trenchworks, gunshot-ridden walls, and massive fortresses. And who do the leaders of these kingdoms get to fight for them? Why, us, of course. Soldiers fighting for their kingdom, fighting for their families, or just fighting for one more scrap of meat so they don't starve. There are aligned infantry regiments like us, formations of tightly drilled battle lines bringing muskets, or if the gunpowder runs a bit low, crossbows and pole weapons to bear, their regimental standards proudly up in the air, while musicians keep the soldiers in lockstep. Of course, you might not stay as line infantry. Perhaps if you have the skills, you can become a skirmisher, part of small agile attack groups, who harass well-ordered battle lines, provoke premature volleys, and capture strategic locations. The Jaeger units are an example of them. Both scouts and skirmishers. Those in our army are smaller detachments of our infantry regiments that fulfill that vital battlefield role. In other kingdoms, they may be formed from rugged tribal warriors and frontiersmen who use their natural expertise to their advantage. If you are a bit braver, tougher, and meaner, you could become a shock trooper, battle-hardened soldiers of exceptional violence, who specialize in storming enemy trenches with muskets, grenades, melee weapons, and if those fail them, their bare hands. Are you skilled with a horse? Then maybe you should consider joining the cavalry. As like cavalry, you would become a vital lifeline for the campaign by maintaining communication lines across the battlefield, or foraging for vital supplies from nearby forests. Or you could be assigned to scout ahead of the main column for viable attack routes, or raid enemy positions with the use of muskets or lances. When you become a bit more battle-hardened, you can request to join the Heavy Cavalry, a military unit containing the toughest soldiers and riding the strongest horses, usually applied as a finishing force, to sweep enemies from the field in physically crushing assaults that serve as a brutal psychological blow to their morale. I should tell you though, no matter your skills, there are elite units that you can never join. The foot soldiers and the heavy knights. Those prestigious ranks belong to the nobility, bred to be the best warriors around. At least that's what they claim. I think their success has more to do with the advanced training they receive, and the enchanted arms and armor available to them from the Arcanist Guild. If you're not particularly tough, then working with artillery might be a good choice for you. For example, the field guns, usually reserved for fortresses, both their defense and destruction. You might be ordered to bring them to a proper battle, putting them in the right place to disrupt or even shatter enemy battle lines. A powerful weapon that will admittedly make you a priority target. One day though, if you show yourself as competent, you might have the unfortunate curse of being promoted. Starting as an officer, and watching as your soldiers are gunned down right in front of your eyes. Or worse, eventually becoming a commander, and being forced to give heroic speeches and inspire your troops to prevent them from breaking entirely. I'm sorry, soldier. I know I should have kept my mouth shut, but it has been a stressful day. How about this? As penance, how about you stick by me? I'll make sure you survive this engagement. Just do exactly as I say, and you'll get out of this alive. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the lore of the wargame Sludge. A game with a setting I really like. It gave me a Warhammer fantasy feel, like the world is doomed and people are just trying to survive it. If you like the setting and want to know more about the game itself, link to the game itself, where to buy it, is down below. Buy it, give it a look. Give the support to the creators. What else? Yeah, if you really like the video, please like, subscribe, comment, press the little bell so you know where I post, etc. so that YouTube guys know that I exist, and hopefully more people will see this video and be interested in this particular setting. And if you really like the video and only have the cash, please consider sending a little money away to my Patreon or my Coffee account. The extra money gives a chance I need to work on these stories I love. Thanks for listening / watching, and see you next time.